Hello, welcome to our evening weekly podcast. Today we will be discussing the issue of the newly formed, that is, Weimar Republic, which is, I must say, a very interesting topic. That's the introduction. So as the Weimar Republic was formed in the defeat of the war, the Republic itself was linked with the symbolism of defeat, which will already lead to some form of opposition, which includes the public and some minority of political parties. Another initial issue that the Weimar Republic faced was that it's a lot more democratic, which led to some resentment from the more traditionalist political parties, and it was seen as a modernisation of German politics, which would always lead to some sort of minority opposition as well. There is the Treaty of Versailles, which was issued upon Germany after the defeat of the war, which led to some problems that the Weimar Republic had to face. Now, the three leaders, Lloyd George, Clemenceau and Wilson, had a variety of aims that they wanted to push upon Germany. For example, Woodrow Wilson was the most moderate, as he wanted to offer them a lot more peaceful terms, whilst Clemenceau was the opposite of the scale, as he wanted to squeeze the pips from Germany and make them pay, as the French army lost a lot of soldiers compared to America, who did join.
Take 12.
The Treaty of Versailles can essentially be broken up into 5 main parts. So first of all, let's discuss the territorial terms that were forced upon Germany, mostly by Clemenceau. Examples of this would be Alsace-Lorraine being returned to the French, from which was originally German territory, the demilitarization of the Rhineland, which is pretty self-explanatory, as no military equipment or soldiers were allowed in the area, which created a buffer between the two nations. Another example would be Anschluss with Austria, which basically meant that Austria could never join with Germany again under the terms of the treaties. Next, there is the War Guilt Clause, which is Article 231 of the Treaty of Versailles. This, in simple terms, meant that Germany had to accept the blame for starting the war over any other nation, which was probably the most controversial clause in the whole of the treaty. Then there is the reparation fees, which was again pushed strongly through by Clemenceau. A fee of 6,600 billion was pushed through that Germany had to pay. This was pushed through by Clemenceau the most, as he felt that his land and his environment was damaged the most by the war. There are the military terms, which go as follows.
So first, there's only 100,000 men the army was limited to. Then there was no aircrafts, and only 6 ships, and no submarines.
Oh, sweet Jesus! The last main part of the treaty was to actually maintain the peace and to make sure the war never broke out again. This was done through Wilson's idea of the League of Nations. After the end of the war, the theory of the diktat came to play. This was mostly applied to the Treaty of Versailles. The diktat basically translated through as a dictated peace. Examples of this in the treaty would be Article 231, where Germany were forced to take the blame as they had no other option, or the harsh reparations of 6,600 billion. The debate about the Treaty of Versailles can be strongly applied to the issues faced by the Weimar government. It was very controversial and it was seen as very harsh, especially by the people in Germany. The public were resentful of the government for the situation they were in. There was also some resentment towards the army, and this caused there are some key points of significance that the Treaty of Versailles had on Germany. Examples of this would be the military humiliation that they faced in the war. Some more would be the financial concerns. The £6.6 billion of reparations was a huge issue that the Weimar Republic itself had to face. It had to find the money from somewhere and to keep the economy going. To conclude about the Treaty of Versailles and the significance it had on the Weimar Republic, it virtually made the Weimar Republic extremely unpopular, as it was forged in the defeat of the war, and clauses such as the reparation 6.6 billion and the humiliation of the defeat of the war, and as it came as such a shock due to the propaganda campaign prior to the war.